Dobre utro, ladies and gentlemen. That means good morning. Chasiv Yar, a frontline town in the Donetsk Basin, or Donbass, has been taken by the forces of the Russian Federation. The war in Ukraine continues. And here is a geopolitical summary without the stupid Western spin. It's really frustrating. All right, calm down, Fuzzy. News Baba needs to maintain composure. Zelensky continues to ask European leaders for aid, and by and large, Europe and America have continued giving that aid, dangling some hope in front of Zelensky in a way that, analytically speaking, may actually be more harmful than helpful. How, you may ask? Well, because there is a geopolitical reality on the ground. This is what the Western news won't tell you, by the way. The dynamics on the ground in Eastern Europe, the dynamic on the ground in Eastern Europe, rather, is that great regional power Russia holds 20% of Ukraine and therefore has established a partial victory over Ukraine. Not an outright victory. An outright victory would mean Russia has the capital under its control, which they absolutely do not. And it doesn't look like they will be able to achieve that in any way, shape, or form without taking casualties that Vladimir Putin and his administration are not willing to take. But it's a partial victory. And Russia wants a peace deal. Naturally, if you are an analyst, you understand this. Even pro Ukrainian analysts understand this if you push them hard enough. Naturally, Russia wants a peace deal on Russian terms. That's what happens when you occupy 20% of your adversary's territory. This is in line, analytically speaking, with the reality on the ground. But Ukraine, encouraged by its so called allies, continues to negotiate with Russia or continues to hope to negotiate with Russia on Ukrainian terms. Why? Well, because Ukraine is emboldened by the military and economic aid that it gets from the Western powers. Without it, it could assess the situation more accurately and conclude, right, boys, we need to go to the negotiating table. This is a hopeless case, right? Hopeless. Not sure why they have that accent, but they do. We have a sovereign country here, right? Ukraine. We can give up the DLZK front, the southern oblasts, as I label them, the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts. Oblast meaning province or state or region in Slavic, basically in the Slavic cultures of Russia and Ukraine. And we give up those southern oblasts and we pull ourselves out of this godforsaken war and ideally, moving forward, stay a neutral state so Russia doesn't keep getting on our case. Don't join NATO, you know, which is why Russia invaded in the first place. We wanted to join NATO at the encouragement of NATO in Europe. They were sort of pushing us into it, or pulling us into it, I should say. And Russia said, listen, you do not want to join NATO. I'm telling you this red line for me. Absolutely a red line. I am not kidding. This is not bluff. Okay, you cross red line, bad things will happen. And the NATO allies in Europe, allies of Ukraine, said, "Nah, bruv, don't worry, Ukraine. They're just bluffing. They're just bluffing. They're not gonna do anything." And then Russia invaded. They were like, "Da, we told you, Sergey, bring the soldiers, bring the troops. We're going in." You can't blame them. They gave you the red line, and then you crossed it, and then you got invaded. Now, I'm not on Russia's side, but I'm giving you the analysis that Western news outlets absolutely won't tell you, that this is the dynamic, right? Russia gave a warning. They said this seems to us like aggressive encroachment. Don't do it. They did it. Russia responded. Right. So, Ukraine gaining a peace, even on Russian terms, would mean it's a peace at least. Ukraine would stop losing men. It would stop losing money. It could bounce back, rebuild with, it should be noted, with the backing of Europe, no less. With the backing of the European economic bloc, the Western economic bloc, a strong backer to have indeed. But instead, Zelensky, current president, former comedian of Ukraine, continues to send his men to their death in a war Ukraine cannot win. And I don't want to be completely biased here, so I'll say Vladimir Putin, Russian president, former KGB agent. There you go. So I've sort of given the past roles of both people. Now, I want to stress this. Not even the Western powers claim that their support to Ukraine will be able to push Russia out, right? The Western powers don't say we're going to keep supporting you until Russia is completely pushed back out of the DLZK oblasts, the southern oblasts of Ukraine that they continue to occupy, and Crimea. So why are they fighting? Why does Ukraine keep suffering under Russian bombardment to this day? What is the viable end goal geostrategically? Tell me, what's the end goal for Ukraine? You won't find one. You won't find a valid, justified end goal. And I'll tell you why at the end of this video. Geostrategically, though, there is no end goal for Ukraine. This leads me to the conclusion that Zelensky is mismanaging the conflict for his nation. He is not doing what would be practical and beneficial, prudent, you could say, for his state and his people. Russia continued to keep the war in an attritional configuration. The pressure remains attritional, by the way, meaning they're not throwing all their weight behind their punches. Really, they're not even punching at this point. They're just maintaining enough pressure, the threat of punching, that it keeps Ukraine, it keeps, of course, it keeps Ukraine on a war footing. Ukraine's at war, right? Russia's at war. But Russia's attritional stance means that they don't lose troops anywhere near the number they would if they were on the active offense, pushing hard into Ukraine. That's why you don't really see any advancement. It's been 3 years. What's Russia doing? The answer is Russia's in a holding pattern, is pressuring through missiles, which mean that it costs Russia something. The missiles cost Russia something. The drones cost Russia something, but it doesn't cost Russian lives, which is very important. So the pressure remains, but with minimal troop casualties. This way, Russia can continue the pressure without overcommitting and causing an imbalance of state assets, state resources elsewhere. And Russia waits, right? Eventually, the expectation by the Eastern Bear is eventually Ukraine will fold like a cheap deck of cards and come to the negotiating table and be ready to negotiate peace on Russian terms. America tried several times to pressure Russia to end the conflict. Trump, as recently as the last week, gave some sort of deadline and then cut the deadline to 10 days. Putin, you have 10 days. You have 10 days, Putin, baby. He doesn't call him that. But after 10 days, we're going to give you hell. You won't even know what hit you. We've got the best. Have you seen my 2 submarines that I just deployed near you? They're in very cold water, and then you're going to be in very hot water. All right, water is not what they say. Water. Should have said water. Sorry, the accents are... Okay, I get it. I need to work on my Trump accent. Sorry in advance. Now, America tried to get Russia to negotiate a peace with Ukraine, but on American and on favorable to Ukraine terms. Not going to cut it. So far, it's not worked. Right? And Russia's not going to buy it. They're not going to take the bait, essentially, because they feel they're in a advantageous position, and geostrategically they are, and they're not willing to entertain this idea of on the ground we're winning, but on the negotiating table we're going to act like you guys are winning. That makes no sense to the Russian Federation. So they're just holding off. They're just keeping the war in a holding pattern, waiting for something else to change, something else to give. And every day, Russia's hand, it should be noted, Russia's hand is strengthened and Ukraine's hand is weakened. As I've been saying for half a year, right? You guys discovered my channel, Iran versus Israel, probably, most of you. But I was making Russia-Ukraine analysis pieces for months beforehand. And I'll be moving a lot of those into YouTube playlists so you can actually see the full development. And compiling them into like month-by-month summaries so I can put TikToks back to back, and you can watch like an hour's worth on YouTube if you're interested and you want to get that detailed, potent summary, but across a long period of time. Ukraine, I used to say back then, and I say even now, Ukraine is likely to get a worse and worse deal the longer they put off a peace deal. Because in attritional combat, you look at the long-term trajectory, the one that wins in the long term is the one who's going to get more and more as time goes on. Right? If Russia's going to win in the long term and they're currently in that holding pattern, headed that way, that means every month the war continues. Russia gets stronger, Ukraine gets weaker, unless something else changes. Now, Ukraine can't rely on its allies to save them, right? In the mid to long term, then nothing's going to change that's going to give Ukraine an edge, that they're going to push Russia out of the 4 southern oblasts. As I've been saying for half a year, every month passes, Ukraine is likely to get a worse deal. Yet Zelensky persists. It's somehow seen as pro-Ukrainian to keep supporting Ukraine in this dead-end mission. Oh well, I hope for the Ukrainian citizens this doesn't carry on much longer. And that's it, basically. That's my summary. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. More importantly, the Russia Ukraine war, the dynamics currently in play. That's the summary. There's not really much to update on. Yes, there's a lot more to talk about, but I haven't prioritized those over other things that I'm discussing on this channel. In summary, Ukraine has no way to win. The Western allies of supporting them. I did say that I would tell you at the end of this video why the Western allies are still supporting Ukraine. The answer is because Ukraine is a proxy. They have been handed over. They have been their fate is sealed in the eyes of the West. They've written the notes and they've sealed it. They've signed it. It's off now. What is the fate of Ukraine according to the Western powers, even Western powers in Europe, not just America? The fate of Ukraine is going to be our speed bump, the disruptor, the pothole on the road that the Russian tank has to drive over or drive into, and is going to make them jiggle a bit before they head further west. We've sacrificed Ukraine, and we're gonna say, the rhetoric's gonna be that we support Ukrainian independence, we support democracy to the last Ukrainian man standing. We're gonna support you. They're ready to give their weapons, they're ready to give their money, they're not ready to lay their life on the line. I wonder why. I'll tell you why. It's because, I'll say again, Ukraine is a proxy. Analytically speaking, Ukraine is a proxy of the Western powers. They are happy to throw Ukraine to the Russian bear and say, okay, stay busy with that. We're going to just spend the next 5 years rearming our atrophied military capabilities, because, newsflash, the Western powers have basically special forces. They don't have standing armies because they spent the better part of a century under American hegemony, under America's shade, under America's wing, expecting that America, Big Daddy USA, will be the top dog. They will provide the standing army. We're just going to be a cute little supplementary force, right? A cute little supplementary force. But now Friedrich Merz of Germany and Emmanuel Macron of France and Keir Starmer of the UK, they're all talking about militarizing. They're all talking about boosting defense spending. They're all arming up in a way you did not see except in the run-up to the Second World War. But this time Germany is apparently not the bad guy, Russia's the bad guy. Okay, sure. So that's the world we live in. There is no future for Ukraine that the Western powers can support and eventually lead them into that prosperous future. The end of the line for Ukraine is a brick wall. It's not diagonally. It's not, Hagrid goes tash, 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 and then it goes, wow, it's diagonally. I can buy myself a wand and a bird or a toad. No, bruv. Calm your wizard robes. Okay, there is no diagonally. It's just a brick wall. So if you smack your head against it, it's not going to break some bricks out and then there's going to be a magical alley behind and you can get ready for, rolling up to platform 9 3/4 with your best buds. No, it's just a brick wall. Ukraine there's no war goals to achieve here. So just go to the negotiating table and sue for peace, for the prosperity of your people. That's the analytical assessment. Of course, you can take sides. You can, have a Ukrainian flag behind you and say Slava Ukraina every 5 seconds and somehow justify blind support to Ukraine and say that that's actually pro-Ukrainian. I'll tell you why I think it's pro-Ukrainian. Not getting more Ukrainians killed unnecessarily. How about that? How does that make me pro-Russian? Because loads of people call me pro-Russian. You should see my assessment on Syria. I don't think you'd think I'm pro-Russian. I'm pro-truth. I'm pro-analysis, unbiased, and then letting my viewers decide. Anyway, for the unbiased news, ladies and gentlemen, without the Western spin, I'm Mahfouz, and I apologize that I've managed to hack the system to be able to bring you videos longer than 10 minutes. This is going to be a problem for you guys, I'm sure, because loads of people were like, Mahfouz, you talk too much already. How have you breached the 10-minute mark? Have you hacked TikTok? What's happened? The answer is, don't worry about it. But I'll try and keep under 10 minutes, unless it's on YouTube. Listen, you need to go to my TikTok bio. You need to see all the ways that you can keep connected with me. X, YouTube, you can send me a voice note. You can send me an email. You really need to connect with me in other ways, because just keeping TikTok as our way of communication means that this becomes a single point of failure. For some reason, if I can't upload videos or my account runs into some trouble, you've lost access to me. So I would really appreciate, if you value what I do, I would appreciate you connecting with me through other avenues. Eventually, I'll have a website. Eventually, I'll have an app. So keep supporting me. Zero animation budget, but we'll be building our own app. Yes, I know it's a bit odd. But I think there's plenty of animations on YouTube. I'm just here to give you the analysis, not the animations, the analysis, not the activism, the analysis unbiased without the Western spin. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay sharp, stay frosty.